What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. FantasyTeamAdvisor.com bringing home the bacon NFL DFS video, the final breakdown. Conference Championship. We're looking at the two games, the four teams. We're looking at the spreads. We're looking at the implied team totals. We're looking at it all. So if you have never been to the channel before, hopefully you're in for a treat. Just maybe a little bit of taste of what you can expect in the fall, starting in September. But we're going to bring you a breakdown. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the two games. We're going to look at the players. We've already gone through and ranked. So we're going to go over the rankings that I have in these games. And then we're going to build some lineups. We're going to build a couple of lineups on DraftKings, FanDuel, and Yahoo. So we're going to use SaberSim. So if you've never checked out SaberSim, I do suggest checking it out. We have a ton of winners this year. We're very excited. While one door closes with the NFL, we still have NBA going. We've got PGA. We've got MMA. We've got baseball in the near future. And if you have not checked out what we've done in the past with the MLB, highly suggest go checking out our playlist and go checking out everything that we did, how we broke it down, 40-plus minute videos every day, but breaking down every pitcher, every batter, everything that has to do with the games. So that being said, we are going to take a look at the NFL one last time. Let's break down the conference championships. So we got the first game on the slate. And if you haven't already, at the end of this video, I will link. I made a showdown video for the Washington at Philly game, and I made a showdown video at the Buffalo at Kansas City game, and we built some lineups there. So we have two final showdown breakdowns for you. Those will be at the end of the video. Make sure you check that out. So that being said, Washington at Philly. We have Philly as a 6-point favorite right now, 47.5. I really love Washington here. I don't think it's going to be as big a shootout as we saw against Detroit, but I could see Jaden Daniels absolutely feasting in this one. And in that same aspect, in those games, Washington has an implied team total of 20.7, whereas Philly has an implied team total of 26.9. And then we got Buffalo at Kansas City at 5:30 p.m. Central. We got Kansas City is a 1.5-point spread, so a close game. I love Buffalo here. We'll see. It's Kansas City versus Buffalo versus the refs, if you believe that. We've got an over-under 48.5. So we have two decent over-unders. Would love to see 50-plus. Maybe we hit 50-plus by the time the game kicks off 2 p.m. on Sunday. But in that game, Buffalo is a 23.7 implied team total, and Kansas City has a 25-point implied team total. So I like what we see here. We're going to break it down. We are going to look at everything. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can ask down below, or you can hit us up on our absolutely free Discord, which is in the description as well. So we have a matchup tool, completely free under the NFL tab, NFL matchup tool. So these are how you read it. So these are the defenses. These are what they've given up in the playoffs to the quarterbacks, and these are the fantasy points per game, both on DraftKings and FanDuel. And you can see the ranks there. So you can see in order, if you follow that with the small sample size of NFL playoffs, you can see how it's gone. Running back, same situation. You can see Washington gave up a ton to Detroit last week. Saquon could feast. I absolutely love Saquon. I think he's got to be in almost all of your lineups. Wide receivers, you're looking at the Eagles, so A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. And then tight ends, you're looking at basically, you're looking at the Commanders. So Zach Ertz, maybe we see revenge game or facing his old team. He's got the best matchup here, and he's healthy. You got the Chiefs, so Travis Kelce, which I have Travis Kelce number 1. You've got the Bills, whoever they're going to have, and then you got the Eagles tight ends as well. So if you want to see that, check it out. It's under the NFL tab, the first tab there. Make sure you give it a look. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go through, and we're going to show you. Excuse me. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've ranked what I like in the order that I've ranked them, because I want the algorithm for SaberSim to see that when we build lineups. So if you guys are interested in that, we are definitely going to break that down. So looking at this, I have Josh Allen as the number one quarterback for this weekend. I love what he brings to the table. I know that he is able to run in 2 scores on his own, Chiefs' run defense has been pretty good. I don't care. I love Josh Allen in this situation. They always seem to show up in these big games versus the Chiefs. I think we see another shootout here again. Number 2, I have Jaden Daniels. I think if they think Philly's going to be up and Washington's playing from behind, I'm taking Jaden Daniels and a stack with Terry McLaurin, maybe Austin Eckler, just Zach Ertz. It depends on the stack we're going to go with. You got Patrick Mahomes, number 3. He just always seems to play up against Buffalo, and he's at home, so we give that. And then we got Jalen Hurts here, number 20. I've ranked, or number 4. I put him up at 20 fantasy points here on DraftKings. Now, looking at him, he did hurt his knee, or it seemed like he did. In that, it looked bad. It looked very bad, but he's practiced all week, and he's got no designation. It still could get tweaked. That is the only reason I have him number 4 out of 4 here. Moving on to the running back, I don't think it's going to be a surprise. You guys know exactly who I'm talking about. Saquon Barkley, number 1. It's not even close. Number 2, I've got James Cook. I know Kansas City's defense has been pretty good, but James Cook could cook if you want to see it. So let's see what James Cook was able to do last time these guys played. Against Kansas City, when was that? Week 11, put up 19.7. He only had 20 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. That's the only thing that scares me. He's had success against him. He had 19 touchdowns on the year. He's receiving some balls as well for some touchdowns. But against Kansas City, he only had 20 yards on the ground. But their run defense, and that was in Buffalo. So that's the only thing that scares me a little bit. I might tweak that a little bit later on down the road. We will see. Number 3, I've got Brian Robinson. Number 4 is Austin Eckler. They're real close. Number 5 is Kareem Hunt. I've got Kareem Hunt above Isaiah Pacheco. I think I'm going to have a couple of bets. If I'm putting touchdown bets, we'll talk about some of the touchdown bets that I like at the end of the video. Number 6, I've got Pacheco. Number 7, Ty Johnson. 8 is Kenneth Gainwell. 9, Ray Davis. And number 10 is Samaje Perine. Perine's always one that could come through and vulture a touchdown. Whether or not he does, we will definitely see. So then we get into the rankings for the wide receivers. Terry McLaurin is my top one here. I absolutely love F1 here. He's a cheaper price than A.J. Brown. And you can see 3 straight games with touchdowns. The targets have been there. 6 last week for 87 yards and a touchdown. 10 the week before that. 12 the week before that. I love a Terry McLaurin, Jaden Daniels connection for the Conference Championship. A.J. Brown, number 2. Number 3, I've got Khalil Shakir. Number 4, I've got Xavier Worthy. 5, Devonta Smith. 6, Diami Brown. 7, Hollywood Brown. 8, Keon Coleman. 9, Olamide Zacchaeus. Number 10, DeAndre Hopkins. 11, Curtis Samuel. And 12, the weird Mac Hollins, which more of a tournament. I mean, you're playing tournaments, but if you make multiple lineups and you make different Buffalo stacks, Mac Hollins, and there's so many different ways that they can go about throwing it to Mari Cooper, Khalil Shakir, Mac Hollins. Hell, they even have Ty Johnson, who's a running back, but we saw that huge game where he had 150 receiving yards. Was it 2 touchdowns or something like that? Crazy stuff. There's just so many different ways. And then the tight ends. There's so many different ways that Josh Allen can beat you. On top of that, he can beat you with his legs as well. So we move to tight ends. Now, I've done this. I've ranked the same exact way on FanDuel and on Yahoo as well. So I wanted to bring that up. Tight ends, Travis Kelce, number 1. They're saving him. The targets are there. He had 117 yards last week. He's bringing it, and it's for a three-peat. We are going to see Travis Kelce targeted. I would not be surprised, double digits here. So I've got him number 1. Number 2 is Dallas Goedert. He is questionable, but I fully expect him to play. Number 3 is Zach Ertz against his former team. Number 4, Dalton Kincaid. Number 5 is Noah Gray. Number 6, Dawson Knox. 7, John Bates. And 8, Grant Calcaterra. You just don't know. I just don't see Calcaterra doing much. But again, it just depends. If Goddard is a late scratch, then Calcaterra will bump up a little bit. Defense-wise, it really depends. Defenses, I love the Eagles at home, but they're going up against Jay Daniels, who I love. So you got the Bills, you got the Chiefs, and you got the Commanders. So last week, we put our lineups in there, and I broke it down in that video that you guys can, or you probably watched. I loved the Commanders' defense last week. even though it was going to be a huge breakdown and a huge over-under, which it was, there was, 76 points. They still put up 17, okay? They had sacks. They had a defensive touchdown. They had 4 interceptions in that game. Not saying they're going to have that against Jalen Hurts here, but I loved them that last week. This week, I don't mind them. They are very, if you're just throwing away, like you're throwing it away because they're the cheapest, I completely understand that as well. So, there you have it. Those are all of what we brought when we are looking at the rankings. Now we're going to see what the algorithm thinks about building lineups. So, right off the bat, it loves Jaden Daniels, which I love this. Maybe too big of a stack, we'll see, but I love Jaden Daniels this week. I love Robinson Jr. Jaden Daniels throwing it to McLaren and to Ertz. I messed with that 100%. I love that. You do have the Commanders defense because it is they're cheap. They're the cheapest. It's kind of a throwaway. If they could get a couple of interceptions or sacks or a defensive touch to pick 6, they'll pay off their price. Got to get Barkley in there. I think he's a core play. You got to get him in every one of your lineups. You got A.J. Brown in there. So you do have Philly players against Washington defense, which is fine. You got Dallas Goedert as well. Then they threw in Keon Coleman. So the first lineup only had one player from that Kansas City-Buffalo game, and that is Keon Coleman. So that's one. I do like Jaden Daniels. If we're looking at a Josh Allen, I'm very curious with Josh Allen. They put him naked there. And what I mean by that is they're not stacking him with anyone, which he's one of those that you could do that with. He can run it in a couple of times and pay off his salary. So they've got that. And then basically Commanders defense again, Goddard, A.J. Brown, and Barkley for the Eagles. And then you've got De'Ami Brown, Terry McLaurin for your 2 wide receivers on the same team, which is completely fine because I think they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. Dallas Goedert, and then flex of Noah Gray. Noah Gray is a cheap tight end option, specifically very cheap on DraftKings Showdown. If you want to check that out, that'll be linked at the end of this video. So if we look at another one, they have put him with Coleman. Barkley's still in that lineup. You got the Commanders defense. You got Kelsey there. Goddard, De'Ami Brown, Terry McLaurin as well. So if we look at what the SaberSim likes for a Patrick Mahomes, maybe he shows up in these big games. They've got Mahomes and the Chiefs defense. They have Mahomes by himself, throwing it to nobody. Barkley, Brown, Goddard for the Eagles. You got Robinson, De'Ami Brown, Terry McLaurin, and Zach Ertz for Washington. I want to see. There we go. So there's a stack here. You got Mahomes. Again, you got Barkley in there. You got Brian Robinson. You got McLaurin. But you got Mahomes throwing it to Worthy, throwing it to Noah Gray, and throwing it to Travis Kelsey. You have only one Eagle in Saquon Barkley, and then you have the Commanders defense as well. Khalil Shakir, McLaurin, and Robinson Jr. So I love those. There's going to be one. I feel like there's going to be one of those players this weekend that you aren't talking about, and then for no reason they have a touchdown. Like a defensive or an offensive lineman being eligible and getting a touchdown and screwing a ton of people over. It's probably going to be the Chiefs. Probably going to be some 400-pound fat guy run in there and catch the ball like it's a cookie and fall down, something like that. I feel like that's going to happen this weekend. But those are just some of the... Or I guess we could look at Jalen Hurts lineups. Excuse me. Hurts with Barkley, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert. You got the Chiefs defense against the Buffalo Bills. You got McLaurin, Robinson Jr., and Zach Ertz there, and Keon Coleman. And another one, Hurts, Barkley, Brown, Smith, Chiefs defense. I'm okay with these. Noah Gray, Dalton Kincaid, Terry McLaurin. You've got, it's everything. And if you look at what this is, I'm going to guess that Saquon is 100% owned and all the, I ran 5,000 lineups. So he's in 74.6%. So if you're looking at exposure and you're looking at who's the most exposed, Saquon Barkley, Terry McLaurin, James Cook, Travis Kelsey, and Khalil Shakir are the top 5 most owned on DraftKings through 5,000 lineups here, which is very much expected with Saquon. So now I'll move to FanDuel. FanDuel's a little bit different. The pricing's a little bit different, but the rankings are the exact same. I went through. I gave the same rankings: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. They were all the same. The number one lineup it liked was Jaden Daniels. This lineup here doesn't have Saquon in there. So you got Jaden Daniels throwing it to Robinson Jr., Terry McLaurin, Zach Ertz. You've got James Cook as a running back with Shakir, both with Buffalo. And then you got A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert along with the Chiefs defense as well. Moving down the list, second one is Jaden Daniels here. Again, doesn't have Saquon. So, and you can pause these and look at it, which is very surprising that Saquon's not there. But it might be the price, being that he's $9,800, which is an absolutely wild price. So if we look at everything and we look at exposure, same thing. James Cook's the highest owned here with 4,007 lineups out of 5,000. You got Saquon with only 57.3 exposure, Shakir 5.8, Terry McLaurin 50.5, Xavier Worthy 44.8. So if we look at, let's shake it up a little bit. Let's see what a Josh Allen lineup looks like. So we got Josh Allen. He's throwing it to James, or handing it off or dumping it off to James Cook, Shakir, Dalton Kincaid. Got the Eagles defense at home, which I'm okay with. In this same game against Washington, and we did this breakdown, but if you look at this, Eagles defense against Washington, they played back on week 16. They lost. They gave up 36 points, 36 to 33 game here. Still put up 7 fantasy points. Still had a sack, defensive fumbles. So I had 3 fumble recoveries and 2 interceptions. Still put up points in a huge scoring game. At home, I'm okay with that for sure. Another Josh Allen one. There's Barkley in an Allen lineup, which I love. Allen throwing it to Shakir, throwing it to Cook. Have the Bills defense. Maybe Kansas City is off this game. You got the Bills defense there. You've got Robinson Jr., De'Ami Brown, Zach Ertz, Xavier Worthy there as well. So if we look at the same thing for, let's look at Patrick Mahomes. Him and Kelsey, that's it. And because there's so many different ways to go, that's his number one safety blanket. I think he gets, like I said, double-digit targets there. So Patrick Mahomes throwing it to Travis Kelsey. You got the Bills defense, which kind of counteracts that. You got Kincaid, Shakir, and James Cook. You got A.J. Brown, McLaurin, and Brian Robinson Jr. So another lineup without Saquon. And it's probably because Saquon's price is out of this world. Now, if you are trying to hand build lineups with Saquon, it might be a little bit more difficult on FanDuel due to his price. And then we look at Jalen Hurts. Hurts with Smith, A.J. Brown, and Dallas Goedert. Goddard's still questionable. Don't forget that. This is the one that I don't really like because you have all of that, and then you have the Washington Commanders defense, which I'm not liking that for the main fact that it counteracts. The only other person that's not in this game is James Cook. So this is where I would tweak the lineups a little bit. I'm not taking, so like Jalen Hurts throwing it to Smith and Brown. You got Cook in the Bills defense, Eckler, Robinson, and Terry McLaurin. I don't mind that. I just don't want my defense against my quarterback. So you got Hurts throwing it to Devonta Smith. You got the Chiefs defense. You've got Kelsey, Shakir, McLaurin, James Cook, and Brian Robinson. So those are just some of the FanDuel lineups. Again, the pricing-wise, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit harsher pricing for Saquon. And then we get to the Yahoo. So we get to Yahoo. Not a ton of you play. It likes Josh Allen, number one. It's got Josh Allen throwing it to Keon Coleman, Shakir, James Cook in the Bills defense, Eckler and Robinson for your running backs, and then Xavier Worthy and Dallas Goedert. And it only used 3 quarterbacks. It did not use Jaden Daniels, which is wild. This is where you have to tweak it a little bit, especially if you play on Yahoo. I would use Jaden Daniels. So if we're looking at Patrick Mahomes, you go Mahomes with Kelsey. That's fine. You got Commanders defense, Eckler, Robinson. I don't know if I'd like both of those guys. I don't know. So I'm very curious about the pricing of Barkley. Barkley is $40. That is wild. But I'm curious who the most the most exposed, top 5 exposures on Yahoo. So if we do 5,000, I don't know if it'll do 5,000. Let's see. Okay, so now it does Jaden Daniels. It's got Brian Robinson, number 1, James Cook, 2, Dalton Kincaid, 3, 4, Shakir, and 5 is Barkley. So I'm okay with that. Those are different. And if we look at quarterbacks, and now we look at Jaden Daniels. So it was only based off 20 lineups. You got Jaden Daniels throwing it to Brian Robinson or handing it off, Diami Brown, Olamide Zacchaeus, which would be a cheap option at $14. And then it loves Buffalo against Kansas City. Keon Coleman, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, Buffalo Bills, and Saquon Barkley. So there you have it. That is the breakdown of the Conference Championship, the rankings, the lineups that go in with it. Now I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to bring up DraftKings Sportsbook, and we're going to look at some bets for like touchdown bets. Okay, so I was trying to log in, and this past week, for whatever reason, when I try to get that two-factor authentication and get that text with the 6 digits, the text comes in like an hour later, and I just don't feel like being paused for an hour. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I am just going to look into some of the touchdown scores and ones that I like for the Conference Championship. So at the top, you see Saquon, you see Jalen Hurts, you have A.J. Brown. Those are all probably decent ones. We're going to see some sneaky ones. I wouldn't mind a Zach Ertz. I wouldn't mind him at all. I'll have a little bit of exposure to Zach Ertz for a touchdown. We come down the list, which is crazy, because I am looking for Noah Gray. Where is Noah Gray? Down here at plus 400. I like Noah Gray for plus 400. I like Kareem Hunt for plus 175 in this game. You're always going to see maybe a weird little, like a Curtis Samuel at plus 700 or a Carson Steele. Carson Steele won't. There's no way. DeAndre Hopkins, maybe he has a bounce back final good game for Kansas City. Well, trying to go to the Super Bowl. We'll see. If we're going other ones here, Calcaterra at 1,300 if Dallas Goedert somehow misses. Kenneth Gainwell, I could see him vulturing a touchdown as well. So those are some of the ones that we like. If you want to see other bets that we like for Conference Championship, get in the Discord down below. Make sure you check everything else out. Here at the end of the video, I will link both the breakdown for the Washington at Philly game and the showdown breakdown for the Chiefs and the Bills game. So let's have a great Conference Championship. Let's have a great final NFL weekend before the Super Bowl. Let's have some fun, but most importantly, let's bring up some bacon together, guys. Peace!